So this week has been big for the AI space, and I want to really make sense of that for the strategic leader that is you. We're not going to just talk about benchmarks or why this is cool. We're going to really look at you as a strategic leader in your business. What does it mean for you? That's really my interest here. So we had three big launches, right? So Gemini Pro 3 from Google launched. It kind of blew up everywhere. It's a very important next step from Google, but also for the entire space because it's beaten ChatGPT, Grok, and even Claude in many of the reasoning benchmarks. And then Gemini also launched a Nano Banana Pro 3. Now, that's an interesting name. It was kind of the insider name that came out. Now, Nano Banana Pro 3 is not just an image generation model, it's a visual reasoning model. And that's a very important distinction. We'll talk a bit more about that. And just as I was going to print on this newsletter and the video, we've got Claude Opus 4.5. So Claude Opus 4.5 is basically Claude's new high-level reasoning model. Claude has Opus and Sonnet and Haiku. And so Sonnet was upgraded to 4.5 a few weeks back, and now Opus follows. And Opus is a very high-level reasoning model. It can take a lot of complex context and make sense of it. So when you bring all of the three together, you start to see that this week has been really a step change in visual reasoning. And I want to really walk you through what that means in a practical way. Look, as strategic leaders, we have a whole bunch of documents, whole bunch of things that we have to create and input. How many times have we gone and did a whiteboard session and took a photograph of the whiteboard session, and then what? Like, what do we do with it? We go back and sometimes look at it or make notes. How many times have you done post-it notes on wallpaper, and then you come back and say, how do I make sense of all of this? How do I bring it together? Well, Gemini is your friend here now. So let me give you an example of what I mean by that, right? So if you look at this, Gemini is actually amazing at this. So this is a piece of work that I did many years back. This was a work on clinical trials. So I was running a clinical trial business called Plexus. I was the CEO, and I was really exploring how do we reimagine clinical trials from the ground up, from a strategy point of view, from an AI ML point of view, and bringing technology and business models together. So this was this whiteboard. And what I did was I gave this whiteboard to Gemini and said, hey, analyze this whiteboard for strategic logic, strategic tension, and the overall approach to growth for a clinical trial business. So if you look at this now, right, that's pretty much what it gave. Now, it did a visual analysis of it, so it could understand all of it. It, of course, converted that into text inside of a model, but then actually went through a specific understanding of the clinical trial business and the business model, right? It caught the idea that I was working on a platformization of clinical trials. How do we bring these two contexts together? We talked about the data layer as a differentiation. How do you kind of bring this kind of data with AI, ML, and tech together? And then finally, we talked about the predictive value, and it really made sense of all of this in one place. And there's such a better articulation than the whiteboard. It also looked at the strategic tension, gave me a lot of these insights. And then as I went through, I found this very interesting thing. It said at the end, hey, would we like you to explore this idea generation flowchart? You had that at the end. So if I go back to you, this was the idea generation flowchart. It was really, not even written correctly. And then what it said, which I think is really fascinating, is that we were using like a design thinking scientific method on clinical trials, and it kind of saw the meta approach on it because clinical trials itself is a scientific method on its own. So as you can see, it's a quite very powerful model, because what it does is that suddenly it kind of takes all this visual reasoning and makes sense of it. So next time you got a whiteboard, next time you got post-its, it's not just converting to text. That's what GPT-4 could do, right? It's actually taking that and really adding much more reasoning thinking on it, and makes a lot more sense. So that's number one. The second one is Nano Banana Pro 3. I really love this model. Like, a lot of image generation models over the years really struggled with text. If you ask it to write something, it would come back and gets the spelling wrong, or it would have like one word out of three really bigger than the others, and it kind of really didn't make sense. It also kind of took your text and tried to make sense, but try to think as an image. Now, what Nano Banana Pro 3 does, it's actually visual reasoning model. So the same Gemini reasoning that you saw before, you can see in visuals. So what Nano Banana Pro 3 does is it actually understands the context of what you're trying to do, right? It's not just trying to create an image. It's using the same reasoning context and saying, how do I show that up in an image? Now, what that means is it's thinking very deeply about your context, your prompt, your outcome, what you want to achieve, and it brings all of that together in one place. So it's quite a powerful place. You can do a crazy amount of images, crazy amount of opportunities. So let me kind of give you a sense of that, right? So if you look at this, I had a go at this before, so it doesn't take too much of time for us. So I said, hey, let's look at the 3 stages of enterprise AI adoption, right? These are the 3 stages. This is the kind of image I want. And look at this, right? It's beautiful. It's got clear text, right? It's got a nice flow. It looks like a designer has done it. It's picked the right images. Every single text is clear and right. There's no mistakes here, right? And that's beautiful. Like that's just never been done before. But it also understands the core logic of it. So let's go to the next stage, right? I thought, okay, let me translate into Japanese. Now I can't read Japanese, so somebody who's looking at this can tell me better. But it's actually taken that and done a translation to Japanese. Is it right? I don't know, but that's what it can do, right? Think of the power of what you can achieve with things like these. So that's your second layer, right? Now suddenly you have this opportunity where you can create any kind of images. Look at your marketing team. Like think what you can do with the marketing context. But even as a strategic leader, you want to share something to the board. You want to share something to your team. We say a picture is worth 1,000 words, but making the picture is hard. Now you can do it now. So you can open up Gemini, pick the image model. So when you go here, you have all these options, right? I can remove this. Let's open a new chat. So you can go to tools and you can say create images, and that's it. And then you can start creating whatever you want, right? You can create an image and that starts to make a huge difference to what you can do. So let's come back to the third one, right? Now, Claude is interesting. So the Claude is one of my favorite tools for strategy and professional work. I pay the Max account and really work on it because it gives you a very different angle. And what Claude's been doing is, what does a professional strategic leader in a knowledge worker kind of context need? We reason things, we look at data analysis, we make Word documents, we make PowerPoint presentations, and Claude's been kind of really building towards that. So not just thinking about a context, not just writing about it, how do you kind of take it to the next level and act on it, right? Right. Imagine the number of times you kind of chatted with an AI, you need to copy, paste it and see if it makes sense. Does it really work? Oh, I need to edit it. You go back, you type again, you work with it again, you get it back again. It's like, it's not the same. So what we're trying to kind of do here is kind of go beyond that, right? We're kind of exploring how can we actually make this work in a much better way. So let's look at a hypothetical example of you going to a board. You can make this much better. I'm just giving like a high level example, but it's like I'm presenting to the next week to the board. This is my company. We want to build internal AI capability. Should I kind of do it internally? Should I go and partner with someone? What do I do? And I said, format as a professional document and use a framework that you think is credible. So now it's thinking, Opus is thinking here, and then it says, look, I'll create a professional executive summary for your board. And it's got some new skills. So it's got this docx.js, which is basically a new Word document creating skill, and works through that option and says, okay, I need to kind of go through this, and this is what I'm going to do, because this is what a good board document executive summary can look like and the approach. It goes and then creates it. And then when you look at it, See, it's actually done an amazing job. So this is actually a Word document that you can actually download, you can open up, right? You can literally download this and open up, and then you can actually add things. So you can add directly here and tell Claude, actually, I want to change. I think your numbers are wrong. Or you can actually open up the Word document and start writing. Now, basically what this means, right? We've gone from not just kind of creating content and ideas, you're going into action. And this is the agentic next layer up, right? When we hear agentic, this is what agentic is, right? It's kind of moving into not just thinking, reasoning, output, it's going into action. And this action is going to be very critical. It's going to be creating a new opportunity for all of us and a new way of doing things. So this is a very important space. So to summarize, we've got a really amazing week that's happened. I want to give you a sense of what's happening as a strategic leader. How do you use this for your strategy, for your business? So these are the ways you can start to build up. And of course, the next layer up is you have to rethink your workflows. You have to rethink how your teams work. How do you bring all of this together? And that's how you kind of start to create new value. Well, thanks for watching and listening. See you next week.